Welcome back to r/neighbors from hell, where people share stories about their crazy neighbors. And if you're new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe to join our amazing community. And without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. The next one is titled, Good Fences Make Good Neighbors. Nice neighbors are such a luxury, people rarely realize this until they get stuck with a bad one. The reason I actually got my current house was because I was moving away from a crappy neighbor who had slept with my boyfriend. Lovely, right? So, first day in the new place, my new neighbor announces his name and shared the advice that good fences make good neighbors. I said, okay, cool, I will respect your property, you respect mine. He responds back, exactly, 2 thumbs up. The next morning I wake up to find his trash cans out in front of my house. After being emptied, he leaves them in front of my place for another 4 days. Curious, I asked why he put them there to begin with. He said, because we decided that is where they go. The last guy who lived in your house said we could put them there, so you will just have to accept it. I politely explained that I actually was not okay with accepting someone else's arrangement, especially since he left them out for 4 days and also because no. That sparked nearly 3 years of passive-aggressive BS from this man-child, blowing his leaves and tossing cigarette butts onto my lawn, taping signs to my trash cans that said, why can't we just get along? Installing ultra-bright floodlights that pointed directly into my bedroom window and leaving them on for 2 weeks while they went on vacation. In addition, he also liked to at least try and get my car towed when the street was full and I had to park in front of his house. This did not happen very often, but on at least one occasion he actually got my car towed because he managed to lie to the towing company about him owning the parking space in front of his house, which is of course total BS since it is a public area. He does not own the damn sidewalk. He achieved this by putting up a little private parking spot, non-residents get towed sign next to his lawn. Oh, and also daily quality checks of the lights, TVs and stereo systems on his food truck, which remained parked in the driveway also by my bedroom for nearly 4 months. It was a nightmare. Each time I stepped into my back or front yard, I was holding my breath, like, what is next? Eventually, he and his unbelievably loud and obnoxious wife split up and they sold the house as a result. It was honestly like a gift from God. He ended up getting sober in the aftermath and actually showed up on my doorstep to apologize for his behavior about 9 months later. You know, one of the steps. I accepted his apology and wished him luck on everything. It was so damn hard to bite my tongue and not chew his ass out, but in hindsight, I'm glad I didn't kick him while he was down. Also, I welcomed my new neighbor with a batch of homemade cookies and a note with my name and number and an invitation to call or text me if she ever had something bothering her or if she needed anything. Turns out we have the same name, we are the same age and we have very similar lives and backgrounds in general. She has been a breath of fresh air, but here's the kicker, my neighbor from hell, yeah, he moved back in across the street in December. As he approached my driveway to say hello, I outstretched my arm signaling him to stop and said, that is close enough, remember? Good fences make good neighbors. So far, so good. And ripe stars, if you enjoy the stories about crazy annoying neighbors, then please don't forget to like the video and maybe even post some star emojis in the comments if you want to support my channel. Your support really means the world to me and it helps me tremendously. Thank you so much. And the next one is a very wholesome story for once, and it is titled Helping Old Neighbor with Her Lawn. This happened a long time ago. My older neighbor, who we will call May, was too old to mow. She had a riding mower, but she wasn't strong enough to turn the steering wheel. Her son said he was effing done with her and had completely stopped mowing her grass. He stopped because he wanted a pay of almost $400 a week to cut the grass and occasionally weed the flower bed, but she refused. So here she was, a 73-year-old woman unable to cut the grass with our old a-hole neighbors looming over her shoulder. Context, they reported anything. Uncut grass, ratty plants, even not filling the flower beds would get a report to the people who privately ran the neighborhood. She called out for help with flyers, but that idea quickly fell apart when someone robbed her garden shed while doing the work. So she was screwed. The threat of eviction loomed over her head. I witnessed the whole thing. I never really talked to her, so I helped her. She had a list of things to be done. Filling the flower bed? I filled it with dandelions, which quickly took over the whole neighborhood. Every lawn was a sea of yellow. Hiding the garbage cans? Put up a fence with about 6 inches between each board. Technically, the cans were behind a fence, but still plainly visible. Mowing the grass? This was the best part. I took the muffler off her lawn mower and ran that damn thing well past 6 or 7 in the afternoon. But by the way guys, since when is 6 or 7 considered afternoon? That is at least news to me. Anyway, I did this for 3 years every summer before she eventually passed. It was so out of the blue when I went to her house and she was gone and the house was empty. She left me what she had left, $200 for everything. The a-hole neighbors ended up moving out because of me. The next one is titled, "We are going to honor your terms for our rental notice." Years ago, my husband and I had finally saved up enough for a down payment for a house and we were preparing to leave our rental. I think the lease had expired and we were on a month-to-month basis, but there are still regulations in our state regarding when we had to give notice. I talked to the property manager before our closing to see if there was any wiggle room on how much notice we had to give, since we didn't want to give the required notice only to have something fall through at closing. And then we would be out of a place to live. We had lived there for almost a decade and had always paid our rent on time and had otherwise been good tenants, so I thought they would be flexible with our notice and move out dates. The manager said she would ask the owners, and in a day or so she called to say that she was sorry, but they will not be flexible at all. They won't prorate a partial month's tenancy and we would have to give a month notice on the last day of the month, or that may have been the first of the month. It's been a while and I don't remember. We said that would be fine and we understood that he was under no obligation to accept our offer to give our 1 month's notice on any other date than the last day of the month. Fast forward to our closing date in September, where everything went smoothly and we became homeowners. We waited until the last day of the month to give the manager our written notice and October's rent. She accepted it and we planned to be out on the last day of October. Had the landlord accepted our offer, we would have moved our butts to get out of there immediately after closing, but since he wouldn't budge, we decided to take our time. The new place was about 3 miles from our apartment and we decided that instead of hiring someone to move everything, we would take a few boxes over every day and then hire movers during the last week to move the big heavy stuff. That worked out pretty well as we had time to organize as we moved and we saved some money by not having the movers pack and transport everything we owned. The owner had 6 units where we were, as well as other properties around town. In the early part of October, one of our neighbors told us that the owner was redoing the floors in all of the units. He had hired a crew to move furniture, remove the carpet and linoleum and replace it with pergo or some other laminate flooring. It was quite a job since most of us had lived there for years and each unit was 2 floors and about 1,200 square feet. Right after we heard this from the neighbor, the manager came over and asked if they could have access to our unit now so that the flooring could be replaced by the crew. She said the owner wanted to have the unit ready for a new tenant on the 1st of November. We said that this would be impossible since we were in the process of moving and he can have access to our unit on the date he had insisted on since he wouldn't be flexible with our needs. We had scheduled a professional cleaner to come in on October 31st. And they will be done by 5 PM so he can have access then. Had they accepted our offer, we would have been out of there about 2 weeks earlier and we would have been much more cooperative about letting the flooring crew in to redo the floors. The manager said the owner was not happy. It sounded like he would lose some money since the unit wouldn't be ready on the 1st for new tenants and he would have to get the flooring crew back. But there really wasn't much he could do at this point. The next one is titled Calling His Bluff. This is a story about a confrontation between myself and a neighbor, and how a tiny act of malicious compliance in the form of an apology turned a hostile neighbor into a defeated puppy. A couple years ago, my wife and I, and son, moved into a new neighborhood in a small city/large town in the middle of nowhere, Canada. We quickly began to settle into our new place, which had a large backyard with trees, shrubs, flowers, etc. Midway through the summer, I began noticing that tent caterpillars and their silky tents had infested our apple trees. I talked with a couple of locals who informed me that I needed to cut off all affected branches and burn them to avoid these pests spreading further and killing my tree or any other trees nearby. My wife and I did as instructed and proceeded to trim off all the branches and put them in our fire pit, where we used lighter fluid to burn them crispy. We were burning the last of the branches when a grumpy old man, GOM, comes storming into my backyard madder than a hornet. GOM: "What is going on here?" Me: "Oh hey, we are just burning up some branches from our apple tree. It has tent caterpillars and..." GOM: "Do you have a permit for that fire?" "No sir, we didn't know we needed one. The last town we lived in, you did not need any permits for backyard fire pit fires." GOM: "Well, you need one and you are breaking the law. Put that out right now or I'm going to call the fire department." "Oh yes, sorry, I didn't know we needed a permit. We are done burning anyways, so I will put this out right away." GOM turns around and storms away and heads across the street. I casually watch him to see which house he goes into, so I know which one to avoid in the future. The next day I phone around and discover that you simply need to go down to the local fire hall, pay $10 and register with the fire department to get your permit. It never expires. I proceed to take the necessary steps and within 30 minutes I have my fire permit. And yes, you don't actually need to get a piece of paper or anything, they just put it into their records that you have one. That evening, we invite a couple of our new friends over for a wiener roast and s'mores. About an hour into our hangout, a red pickup truck with the fire department's badge drives down our back alley and stops at our yard. Fireman FM: "Hey, you need to put out that illegal fire." "What? It is not illegal. I have a valid permit. I stopped by earlier today and purchased one." "Oh, your fire is too smoky and it's bothering your neighbors, so I need you to put it out right now. And if this happens again, you can lose your fire permit permanently." Me: "Okay sir, whatever you say." I proceed to put out the fire, but I knew something was up. How did he know I had an illegal fire? Why did he make me put it out anyway? I figured someone must have complained and reasoned it must have been GOM. I apologized to my friends, finished my hot dog and proceeded to march over to GOM's house and knocked on the door. GOM: "Hello?" Me: "Hey, it's me, your neighbor from across the street, the one you chatted with yesterday about the fire." "Oh hi, what do you want?" At this point, a sweet old lady SOL, who was GOM's wife, pokes her head around the corner and sees me. SOL: "Hi, you must be the new neighbor. Come in, come in." She ushers us through the house and out into their back patio and deck, where she seats us down. SOL: "Can I get you something to eat or drink?" "Oh, I'm fine, thank you." SOL: "I insist, let me make you some lemonade." Me: "Sure, that would be nice." She leaves me and GOM sitting alone at a table while she goes and makes us lemonade. I seize the opportunity and decide to confront GOM about this whole fire permit nonsense. Me: "Hey, so the fire department stopped by today and made me put out my fire. You would not happen to know anything about that, would you?" GOM: "Yes, I told you that you needed a permit to have a fire." Me: "Right, that's why I went down to the fire department today and purchased one. But they still told me to put out the fire because it was too smoky and was bothering my neighbors somehow." GOM stammers for a bit, surprised by the fact that I had a valid permit. "Well, the smoke from your fire was terrible and it was blowing into our house and bothering my wife. She is very sensitive to smoke." I could tell that he was making this up on the spot, so this is where I hatched my malicious compliance plan. I apologized to GOM for my insensitivity and made small talk until SOL returned with our lemonades and sat down. With my most innocent, I love old lady's face on, I leaned across the table and said, "Mrs. SOL, I want to apologize for my fire and the smoke. Mr. GOM told me that smoke bothers you and I had no idea our fire was causing you so much trouble. At this point GOM shifts uncomfortably in his chair and I could tell I had called his bluff. SOL, whatever do you mean? Your smoke was not bothering me in the slightest. She shoots a dagger of a glare towards GOM. Don't you worry about me, your fires are none of my concern. I apologize one more time with a side glance at GOM just to drive the point home. Are you sure? Because we want to be good neighbors and we don't have to have fires if they bother you. SOL, shush that talk, I'm perfectly fine. You and your friends enjoy all the fires you want. I make eye contact with GOM, who knows he has been thoroughly defeated at his own game. He quickly looks away, hangs his head like a puppy who got caught stealing treats and mumbled something about wanting to be a good neighbor at the prompting of his wife. I revel in the power of my malicious compliance victory while we make small talk and finish our lemonade. I bid farewell to GOM and SOL and walked back across the street with a huge smile across my face, knowing I would never again receive another fire complaint from GOM. By the way, I later found out that GOM used to work for the fire department and was buddies with the fire chief, which explains their odd behavior and quick response to his complaint. And the next one is entitled Neighbor Steals My Packages. So I had moved into my first apartment from share house living. EB in this story is a woman in her 30s with 3 kids and a revolving boyfriend. Pretty sure I never met the same guy twice. Our first interaction was her ranting about how some a-hole, spoiler alert it was me, but to be fair it was my freaking garage, was making her move all of her kids' things out of her storage unit. She had apparently had an agreement / bullied / guilted the previous tenant into letting her have the space for the last 3 years, but now some prissy little skinny girl she had seen my girlfriend moving some of my stuff into the apartment had taken over and was forcing her out. I just kept my big mouth shut, nodded along and offered to help her move her precious hoard. I had to suppress a chuckle when she informed me that it was all going to the other vacant parking spot for the remaining unrented apartment. Sorry to kick the can down the road number 12. Anyway, I am carrying a second box that has no less than 8 DVD / Blu-ray players in it when it occurs to me that some of this stuff is probably stolen. I mean, who has 8 DVD or Blu-ray players? The kids, 7 to 12 years old maybe. Seem nice enough and it only takes maybe 30 minutes to move all of the crap. And by the way guys, in this case EB means entitled BITCH, but we will just remember it as neighbor. Anyway, I bid the neighbor farewell and vow to never leave the garage door unlocked. There were multiple entitled things she did, like filling up my bins with her crap, parking her tank of a minivan out just far enough that you had to do a 1,000,000-point turn to get out, etc. But the one that sticks in my craw is the mail thing. Now let me preface this by saying that you should not be me, don't wait for building management, just get the post office or the cops involved. I've had similar things happen since this and it leads to a more satisfying outcome. Sorry if you came for sweet justice because this is a bit of a fizzle. Over the time I lived there, EB/EB kids would occasionally steal my packages. I knew something had been delivered because I always opted for an emailed confirmation when the delivery service offered one. I contacted management for the first time and got some stills of EB leaving the mail room with lots of packages. Management said it was likely an accident as she was always getting packages herself, mine would just be added to the pile. I'm sure she did it for other people too. The stuff I ordered was never really valuable, secondhand books, t-shirts in a size that didn't fit anyone in her apartment, etc. I always got my stuff back either from her apartment or I would find it back in the mailroom, opened and resealed. I assume other residents either forgot about their packages or assumed it was never delivered. It was a minor annoyance and she did get several warnings, but her excuses must have been enough for management. They were not on site to call it an accident. I suspect now that the camera in the mail room was a fake or a dud because it faced our parcel slots. However, they never provided any footage from it. Anyhow, I would ask for my stuff back and most times I would get it. CB was always sorry, her kids must have gotten confused. You see, she never meant to take my package. We lived in an apartment 6 and 9. Oh dear, her dyslexia made her grab the wrong box. Did your dyslexia make you ignore the fact it had my name on it? I cannot remember all the excuses, but there were a lot of them. So we have a weird cycle going here until she got angry, boyfriend ABF. So it is the usual issue, I get the package delivered, notification, but it is not in the mailbox or the little mail room. I go to CB's apartment and the door is answered by not by EB, but by ABF. I politely ask for the package, done it half a dozen times before without issue, and ABF goes nuclear real quick. He is screaming that they are not thieves and I can go F myself with something rusty. It is worth mentioning that ABF was a good head shorter than me, so I don't feel threatened. I just say, not a problem. The package was delivered, the company took a photo and left it in the mailroom. I will just have the management company check the cameras and let the police know who to come looking for. ABF slams the door in my face and I go make that call. The package miraculously appears back in the mailroom, slightly opened but otherwise complete. I still put in the complaint and this time I kept complaining. Management company is not happy, but after I speak to other residents and they complain too, they finally upgrade the mailroom to have secure parcel boxes. No more thefts were reported. I moved out a few months later into a place with my girlfriend. Oh, you want me to park in my driveway and block everyone? You got it, neighbor. With photos. Tuesday we had a snowstorm in my province, yay Canada, and we received 20 to 25 centimeters of snow, approximately 0.8 foot of snow. The snow is not the problem though. The problem is the snow removal. The neighbors has a crappy contract with a crappy company who blew the snow in front on their driveway. I live in a 5-apartment complex. Behind the complex is a 3-spot parking for the other residents. My boyfriend and I both have a spot to park, which is a 2-car long vertical parking besides the complex. We share that big driveway with the neighbors on our left, with a gap in between for the cars parked behind to get in or to get out. And guys, here you can see a picture of the situation. Here is another picture of what it looks like. The black car is mine and the snow blown in front of their driveway. And guys, here you can see the snow on the driveway. Well, Wednesday afternoon I come back from work and imagine my surprise when I see this big ass snow mountain. As my boyfriend's car is parked where I am right now, I cannot park on my usual spot in front of him. I will block everyone from leaving or entering. I go park in the streets. But since there has been a snowstorm and the snow removal process is starting that night, I cannot stay there for the night or I will get a ticket. My neighbor Y downstairs decides to call the owner of the complex on our left and he says, yes, she can park in front of the snow on our side. So I do that. 2 hours later, an old lady rings everyone's bells in my apartment complex and demands to speak with the black car's owner. I get down, the conversation goes like this. Old lady: are you the owner of this car? Me: I am indeed. Is it problematic? Old lady: it is. This is my parking spot. My daughter comes regularly to visit me and I need this spot. This is my spot. You have no right to park over there. Mind you, there's no one parked there. Only her husband has a car and his spot is behind the complex. Her daughter will not visit tonight nor tomorrow morning nor in the next week since no one can come visit anyone anymore. The pandemic rules are pretty strict where I am. Me: I'm sorry ma'am, the owner of your complex said it was okay. OL: I'm so tired of fighting with everyone. I always fight with everyone. This is not your spot, kid. I am trying to explain how I will block the passage if I park in my driveway. I keep asking her to look at the snow. It blocks anyone entering or exiting if I take my usual spot. Old lady: I don't care. I do not care. You take that car and park in your own driveway. But I will block the pass. Old lady: I don't care. You park in your driveway or go in the streets. This is your problem. I will not get a ticket when your owner said it was. You leave immediately or I call the police. I shut the door, effin' mad. Fine, I will park in my spot and I will block the whole driveway, ma'am. I simply do that. The thing is, 2 of my neighbors work from home. My boyfriend has a day off on Thursday. The old couple downstairs are retired and the other one takes the bus. I simply don't block anyone except for the complex on our left. Thursday morning, who wants to get out at 6:30 and honks loudly in the parking lot? old lady and her husband, whose parking spot is behind the complex, not even on the side, you got me. I could have parked there, it would have made no difference. I go downstairs, pajamas, coat half zipped and wet hair. I wave and smile. "Your car is blocking the entry," she yells through the downed window. I know, you asked me to park in my driveway, which I did. I see her husband on the driver's seat looking at her like, "Janet, not again." She rages a little bit and says, "Fine, go in my driveway if you effing want. I need to go work now. I'm late." "Of course, ma'am." "Thank you, ma'am." I simply smiled and got in my car, rewinded, let them pass and parked in her driveway. Oh joy! This morning, my boyfriend and I left for work, and when I came back, I took his spot. Tonight she will be happy to see no one is parked in her driveway until my boyfriend comes back home. And ripe stars, with this we have unfortunately reached the end of today's video. However, if you cannot get enough of my stories, then I would highly suggest you to check out my endless binge watch playlist, which will show up at any moment in the left corner of the screen, which includes over 1000 ripe stories. In addition, if you would like to share one of your own stories, then please head on over to r/ripe stories on Reddit, where you can post your own story and there is a good chance that I might read it in a video. In addition, please also check out my Patreon at patreon.com/ripeyoutube for more than 50 exclusive Reddit videos that you won't find on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching, your daily support is very much appreciated, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.